This past season, we went from Neverland to Oz, the Big Apple back home to Storybrooke.
It's like a fairy tale.
All leading up to a spellbinding season finale.
Aren't you a real Prince Charming?
So big.
I've got this.
So grand.
What have you done?
So surprising.
She dies tonight.
And in the final minutes, find out where we're going to next. Once upon a time.
Hi, everyone, and welcome once again to Geek Fest Rants. My name is Carlos Perone, and today we are on location, ladies and gentlemen.
In Queens.
In
So
Queens.
if you hear
Beautiful
noise,
Long Island City,
Long Island City. Only
which
about
is really
40
not Long Island. Well, it is Long Island.
It
but
is
it's not.
It's not the tip of the island. It's the beginning
It's
of the
the
Long
ass end
Island.
of the island.
We are here with our host Tony Rossi. Hi, Tony.
hi.
And our other usual participant, Steve Ramona. Say hi, Steve.
Hi.
I think you would call him a panelist.
Panelist. Wow, what is this? The
featured guest. Think of me as like Charles Nelson.
I'm
Riley.
more the featured guest because I'm not on much. But
Yes.
you're a regular.
I'm a regular.
see you more like a
I'm
Tipsy
like
Russell.
a second banana. I'm like Ed to his Johnny.
That's
Wow.
true. That's true.
Today's topic, ladies and gentlemen, is television season wrap-up. It's 2014, and most of our regular shows are winding down, or they're already wound down. And we are going to cover a little bit about what we've been keeping up with, because as you probably know by now, we, some of us at least, grab a lot of new shows when they start. And the majority of those shows disappear because they get canceled, or we give up on them. But a few of them make it, and a few of them have wrapped up, and let's start hitting some of them to see, where we're at. Tony, why don't we start with one of your favorites?
All right. Well, I will kick it off with Person of Interest, the season finale. It's a show that Carlos has given up on because he's too busy watching brain-eating crap drama TV shows.
Exactly.
To follow this, what has become, I think, this season a much more gripping and focused show than it has been in the past with the...
Yeah.
I mean, it started out early on. The first half of the season wrapped up a lot of the storyline for the first 2 years of HR and their, reign of terror in New York. And Sergeant Carter got killed, which kind of set Reese on his dark path.
Yes.
But I remember when season 3 started, everything was humming along so nicely with the team. I was almost like, wow, is this just going to be the
go
new
wrong.
thing? Because everybody's getting along. Their crimes are getting solved easily. It was just like...
They're gelling as a team.
Yeah, they gelled, and I wondered where they were going to go. Was it just going to be kind of a mystery of the week? But then they took it to this other place with this
Decima?
opposing machine being
Yeah.
created called Samaritan, and this other behind-the-scenes group called Decima that was trying to kick in to start up the new machine. And then there was this vigilante group called Vigilance, who are the anti-government, pro-privacy. Because
yeah.
essentially all these machines are looking into
All
every
our
aspect
data.
of people's lives and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to shut it down. And for me, the season finale of Person of Interest was the best out of any of the shows I watched. To me, it was like the Empire Strikes Back of season finales.
Wow.
Because it ended in such a dark,
Grim,
divisive place. I mean, you really feel like, where are they going to go now? And I mean, I don't know how much I want to give away since Mr. Perone still has to
He doesn't
catch
that's
up
okay.
on
That's
this.
fine. I'm going to eventually catch up. I'm sure sooner or later, season by season, they're going to be all on
Right.
Netflix.
And he'll forget everything you said.
Oh, that's
so
true.
Don't
That's
worry
true.
about it.
That is true.
Yeah,
So
remember?
we
Yeah,
might
it's
as
like
well-
Memento, basically.
Let's go full spoiler.
But I mean, essentially, there is Vigilance puts all these government people on trial, and Harold Finch winds up revealing that he is the one who created the machine. And there's also these other characters. There's Greer and Control. I mean, it gets a little complicated. That's one thing. Person of Interest is it's definitely complicated. You got to keep track of quite a number of characters. But at the end of the season, you basically have the new machine, Samaritan, coming online, and the Person of Interest team of Finch, Reese, Root, and Shaw basically Bear. They basically have to scatter. They had to Root establish, she had to put some servers in this machine, this new Samaritan machine, that would allow the 4 or 5 of them to
remain
disappear,
anonymous.
to remain anonymous. Because basically everybody who has opposed Decima and Samaritan up until this point is automatically killed.
Taken out. Yeah.
Everybody's taken out. So they were all on that list, but because Root did something to the computer, they disappear, but in essence, they also all have to break up and go off to not work together again. So it left the team that started the season in this really harmonious place, broken apart in a way that, it'll be interesting to see how they are able to bring them back together, because this new machine is supposedly more powerful than Finch's machine, but I think Finch's machine is still out there too.
I think so. I have no idea how they're going to regroup. I love the Empire Strikes Back analogy. I really think that the show has, when it started, yes, it had HR and it had some arc stories, but it's felt more like a procedural.
Yeah.
And now it feels more like an arc show, and kind of in the same vein as Fringe, where I thought that show started out as more Monster of the Week and then became this overall arc show. And I think that's what I gravitate to, and that's why I loved this season. Mm-hmm. And I do like the darker elements, but I also like Fusco too. Let's not forget Fusco.
Well, Fusco's not disappearing.
He's not. He's still... Now, why is Fusco not being targeted?
I guess they kept his involvement kind of quiet.
Okay.
And actually, he never even knew about the machine, which is kind of...
Okay.
He says something in the finale, like, what machine?
Yeah.
So he never knew how they got the information on the people they helped. So...
Okay.
I was glad he didn't get killed off. I would hate to see that happen.
It's funny. Before Carter was killed, I thought Fusco's number was up.
Well, the commercials were leading you to
believe that. It was such a bait and switch.
Yeah.
And as sorry as I was to see her go, I think I would have been even sorrier to see Fusco. I just love Lionel. His
was a character that has evolved, and he's great for comic relief.
Yes. I love the way he deals with Root.
With Root. Oh, cuckoo clock.
He's just... And one of the things I love about the show is the rapport that all the characters have with each other. Mm-hmm. Whether it, Fusco and Root, or Finch and Reese, or Reese and Shaw. As Shaw has come into this she's awesome. She came from nowhere, and she also was sort of this, like, kind of...
It's like she's got something almost on the, the autism or Asperger's spectrum, like, that doesn't allow her to feel emotion, but
she's growing.
She's growing, yeah.
She's growing, and that's what you got to say about the show. All these characters evolve, they develop, and you're just so stupid for not watching it.
Yeah,
I will catch up.
Stop with the brain eating. I mean, come on. But as Tony said, when a lot of times, this is what I hope doesn't happen, and I'm sure it won't, because I think it's a show that's on a different level, a higher plane than other shows. Is that they don't try to wrap it up in a nice, neat little bow in the first episode of season 4. I want to see how this plays out. I have a feeling that the show is really firing on all cylinders, and I have a feeling that this is going to get a 6-7 year run. And as long as they have a game plan, which I think they do.
I think. And plus, just the way the show ended with this voiceover from Root about referencing Pandora's box, about, this once these machines are in everybody's lives, that's not something that's going to go away again. So it's almost like they have to learn to deal with it.
Right.
And I also would kind of compliment whoever, the guy they picked to play the Decima leader, Greer.
Oh, the British guy.
Because I happen to I think calm villains are more scary than the crazy over-the-top villains, and he's definitely in that category.
Well, now, you have probably a better recall than I do, Tony. Well, no,
questionable, but okay.
Well, you remember details better than I do, and I only know the actor's name, Enrico Colantoni, whoever he plays. Yeah. Is he out there in the wind somewhere, or did his story kind of end with HR? Is he somewhere? I just want to see him back, because I loved him.
He hasn't shown up since the end of the HR story, since he was in the hospital room with the guy who killed Carter, and he had that guy killed by his henchmen. But we have not seen him since then.
So he's in the wind.
He's out there somewhere. And frankly, the world is full of people that they have helped for 3 seasons who somehow are keeping their secrets and never mention to the cops that, these strangers and the guy in a suit helped them out. But no, I think season 3 has been the strongest season yet. And from what I've read from the interviews from the 2 creators, they're really delving into the whole artificial intelligence thing, which makes me think it would be a show you would like, Carlos.
Skynet. Come on.
Or 2001, that whole thing.
Well, from the beginning of the show, when it started, to me, the connection was the Nolan connection. The Dark Knight, the machine that can listen to everybody. Yeah, his brother. And that's one of the things that interested me about the show the most. And I always liked the arc of the show. I was less interested in the person of the week, you know.
to save the whatever.
But
the
it
number.
sounds, from what you're
The
saying, it
number.
sounds to me that they're more arc-centric.
I think so long as the ratings don't go down, I think
Yeah.
they'll stay arc-centric. But
Yeah.
because right now, the show seems to be consistently in the top 10.
Well, you know what, Carlos? He just heard Empire Strikes Back, and he's like, "Oh,
Now-
let's watch.
now he's-
Let's watch.
Action
Now he
figures.
Let's watch."
I would shift to a different finale. And do you guys have anything else to say about Person of Interest?
No, but let me just say, because Steve did mention you should stop watching your brain-eating shows. What he meant by that, in case somebody's wondering, is My Walking Dead, which Steve has completely abandoned.
Dropped.
Oh, actually, I wasn't even thinking. I was thinking of Hannibal.
Well, and that is going to bring us to Hannibal, which Steve is continuing to watch, and Tony will start any time now. I know he's dying to
No,
see
He's dying
it.
to put it on DVD.
But Steve, why don't we talk a little bit about?
I haven't seen the finale yet.
No, that's okay. But in terms of the show itself, how when they first said, okay, they're doing a Hannibal show, and you know, in your mind, at least in my mind, it was like, oh, but there's no. How the hell are they going to do Lecter?
Yes.
Because Anthony Hopkins is incredible as
I
that
said
character.
this to you guys before, and I felt as though, you know, certain actors are born to play certain characters, and once that has been done, it's really hard to see anybody else in that role. And that's how I felt about Hannibal. But I, you know, was intrigued enough about the story, and I liked the movies, so I said, all right, you know, let me see. And Mads Mikkelsen is just phenomenal. I think his performance rivals Hopkins.
It took him a little time, at least for the viewer, I guess for myself, to get comfortable with it. And then it was like, I'm not going to say I can forget Hopkins, because Hopkins will always be there. And Hopkins is more of he's Hannibal in jail. If you really
Yes,
think about
yes.
it, he's the Hannibal who's been caught and is in there.
Yes.
He plays him out there with complete access to all of the tools he needs
Yep.
to do his crazy stuff. And the thing I like about the show the most is, yes, the performance of this particular
Mads
actor,
Mikkelsen, yeah.
but the art direction of the show. The show is done in a certain way where
The muted colors.
the music and the colors and the food and the whole
And the symbolism, the visuals, yeah.
the images and the gourmet aspects of how incredibly dedicated he is to certain things, and how he carries that over to his crazier likings.
Yes, yes.
They do it really well, and they seem to be focusing so far with, obviously, if you catch Hannibal, the show, I would imagine, would be over.
I'm not sure.
Because I don't see how they could continue the show once we already have Hannibal in jail and him being the lead character. However, we know for a fact that at least next season, they're going to take a look more into the characters and events of the Hannibal Rising novel and the Hannibal novel. So they're dipping into Hannibal's past,
Yes.
how he grew up in Europe and all that World War II stuff, which I don't know if he would be old enough
He'd be too
today.
old.
They might have to give him a different background because to make it more contemporary. And the events of Hannibal, which
the movie Hannibal?
the movie Hannibal, the book Hannibal.
Oh, okay.
But wait a minute, isn't Hannibal after Silence of the Lambs?
It is.
So I don't know how I
Because
think
they well, as we said before, like with Walking Dead, they sort of pick and choose, you know, like with Mason Verger,
Yes.
who was a character in the Hannibal movie, they made him a character in this. And also too that, you know, you have characters who have been in Silence of the Lambs who are killed in the Hannibal show.
yes,
Like Chilton.
Right, they're grabbing.
So they're-
there's like
they're kinda messing with
Dr. Bloom, I think, is a character in the book. It's a male character in
Freddie
the book.
Lounds is a
Freddie,
man, and
again,
now
a
he's a
male
woman,
character.
and-
It's a
yeah.
woman in this show. So they are apparently going to be dipping into other Hannibal-related novels, and I can't wait because there's definitely, and when you watch the finale, there's a different flavor coming. Some people are referring it to like not necessarily a reboot, but a reset of the show based on the events of what's happening.
I just have a feeling this show is probably, you know, destined for maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 seasons. I don't see
I'm
how
surprised, and
it
I'm
can
sure they're
go-
surprised they got renewed because they
Yeah.
were on the bubble till the last minute.
Yeah.
And the show, it's funny because the ending of the show, you can kind of see that it was, at least this season, designed to be a possible show finale if
Right,
they weren't
if
in
they
that
weren't
direction.
renewed.
But if they were renewed, it looks like they did a couple of tweaks here and there, and okay, good, we're still, because this particular season starts with
Oh,
a fight
yeah, with a fight.
between Crawford and Hannibal, which, holy crap, there's the cat's out of the bag.
And the
These
rest
two
of
are
the
fighting.
season is a flashback.
It's leading up to this event.
Right.
So again, Tony's absolutely right. Super violent, super graphic. My
Yeah,
God,
for
this is
network
like
television. I mean,
this
talking
is
about
like
pushing
more
boundaries.
than CSI graphic.
Oh, yeah.
With at least with Walking Dead, you're in a fantasy world, so you could say, "Oh, they're dead. Okay, whatever.
but
Who
that's
cares?"
cable.
This guy is in your face.
Yeah.
To which I say,
I mean, I'm on the fence, Tony. I mean, I really think this is good television. I do think it's a little bit.
It's a little artsy.
It's a little excessive in what it shows. But I don't have such a problem with the subject matter because this is out there in the world.
But it's true to the character. This isn't
yeah.
a mailman that turns into a serial killer. No,
Right.
It's Hannibal, so you have to, because it's Hannibal, you can't have him just hurting.
Here's what
cats and dogs.
But here's what I will say is sort of
people get more upset when a character hurts cats and dogs
That's true.
than when they kill human beings.
That's true.
Tony's got a point. But I will say this, and just in sort of defense of the show, and I honestly do see Tony's point, but I just think in respect to this show, it's a fascinating character study. Not just Hannibal, but Hugh Dancy.
Graham.
Now
Now you got to remember, if you at least watched the movies or at least read the books, Graham is a character who has been completely psychologically damaged
Right.
by the events of him capturing Hannibal. So this is what they're exploring: how nuts he has to go and the things he has to
the
do.
lengths that he has to go to
Exactly.
catch him.
Exactly.
I have not seen the show, so I can't comment on it directly. Again, it's just like the gore aspects of it that I've read about. And yes, I'm old-fashioned.
It's a taste thing.
You know,
It's a taste thing.
Hitchcock managed to do Psycho
Right.
without showing
Right.
all the blood. I just think,
Right.
and I don't know. Are you supposed to identify or sympathize with Hannibal as you watch this show?
No, Graham is the good guy.
Graham is the good guy.
He's the damaged good guy.
Yeah, the show is not rooting for Hannibal. Let's put
This
it that
isn't
way.
like Freddy Krueger, like yay,
or
you
even
know.
Dexter, where he's sort of the
Right,
protagonist.
Well,
right.
I was gonna the show in my mind, since I've actually seen it, was Breaking Bad, because the audience does for a while at least
No
identify
way.
with
There's
Wolf.
no
So this
way.
is not
No.
that.
He's
kind
not
of
an
thing.
anti-hero. No
Yeah,
way.
he's
Tony.
not. No. Yeah, we've delved into anti-heroes.
Well, then
He's
I
not
would
one.
just say that I think the gore can be too much. I think whether it's cable or network, between language and gore and sex, I think sometimes they think, well, we just have to show more of this to get people to watch. And I think it's more centered on the importance of story than gore.
I think the gore matches, tries to match the film quality of how gory the films can
And
get.
I can't, honestly, I may be one of the few people who didn't really care much for Silence of the Lambs.
Well,
yeah.
Here's the thing. I think what you could do with this show is you could have all that stuff happen off camera or out of shot, and just have the actors' reactions to what they're seeing, and I'd still watch it. And I'd probably still love it. I mean, yes, is it visually arresting to see that kind of stuff? Sure. And sometimes it's like, ooh, I didn't need to see that. Or, you have this sort of like morbid fascination with what you're seeing. However you want to, phrase it, but I could still watch this show without everything that you're seeing.
It definitely, the show, like if you
Unlike
have
Walking Dead.
If you have other shows like Grimm, for example, that we'll talk about, we always say the freak of the week. With Hannibal, it's kind of like the kill of the week.
Kill of the week.
It's the how creative these
Is the kill.
the killer or Hannibal is in the manner in which he kills somebody,
and he's
because
doing it
there's
for
a purpose.
there's a purpose. There's a reason behind everything he does.
Is the show, do you think, glorifying the kill by showing it in such explicit detail?
They usually don't show you the kill.
Yeah, they don't
believe it or
show you.
not.
They show you the aftermath.
It's the
but,
presentation.
all right, whatever.
but I don't really necessarily see it as glorifying it. I mean, that's a whole other issue too. I think there's that whole kind of school of thought where it's like, could this actually cause people to do that and all that?
think
That's a whole other question.
Well, maybe that's a whole other show.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we come back a little more to
Let's go
an
back to
area
something
where
Tony
Tony
knows.
is a little more
Let
comfortable.
me,
What's your other one,
Before
Tony?
I was so rudely interrupted,
Wow, that's you, Steve. He's talking about you.
I will make this the segue. The season finale of Person of Interest was titled Deus Ex Machina, which
Latin.
is
Tony's
usually
going Latin.
which I think literally means either God from the machine or God in the machine, but it's also used to refer to a literary device where something at the end of the story, something just comes in out of the blue to resolve everything. which kind of was how I felt about the season finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a little bit, with the appearance of Nick Fury. S.H.I.E.L.D. was his first season. I thought the first half of the season was a little bit hit and miss. Certain episodes were, I thought, really weak.
Very weak.
Others were better. It's like when they put Fitz and Simmons in danger of losing their lives, and since this is a show Joss Whedon is connected to, you never know. They could actually kill them.
Yeah.
And I think it got better as it went along, and especially once the twist was revealed of Ward being a bad guy working with...
We're not so sure if he's totally a bad
He's
guy.
not totally... They've tried to give him a little bit of an out,
Some
a humanity.
Did you guys notice, and I think this is something from the beginning of the promotion of the show, the promotional poster of all of them lined up next to each other, Ward is standing in a certain spot, and Skye is looking at Ward's character like this.
Oh, I never noticed
And
that.
a lot of people are saying there was your hint from the start.
Well, according to the writers said that they had planned this all along.
Well, here's the thing.
Well, in cahoots with the
Captain
with
America.
Captain America film.
You know, that was the thing. I mean, Captain America was filming over a year ago.
Talk about reverse engineering.
Exactly. I mean, the creators of S.H.I.E.L.D. knew that they had to sort of dovetail into the events of Captain America, which I think they did well. And I think probably the issue was that they were somewhat hampered by, the knowledge that they had to go in a certain direction. So maybe in the first half of the season, there's this sort of aimless quality to it, and also sort of a week-to-week bad guy villain capture thing going on.
Freak of the week.
which I again, and Tony's right, it was very hit or miss. As a comic book reader, I was happy whenever they alluded to somebody in the comics or brought in somebody from the comics, no matter how obscure they were,
But
usually.
but it had this feel of like we're this secret agent group, and we really don't have too many cares in the world because we got it all taken care of. Don't worry, we're all cool.
The second half of the season, though, I think was more geared towards an arc, and I thought. I mean, there was, I think, a couple of episodes in the second half that were a little weak, too. But overall, I think they really kind of got it going. And then when I really loved Bill Paxton as a good guy, so I was sad to see him go over to the other side. But even now, it's revealed that he's not... I mean, he's Hydra, but not really Hydra. And
He had his own agenda.
Yeah.
So I thought the whole war thing was interesting. The thing about Skye's background, whoever her parents are, is kind of... Where is that going?
Yep.
Garrett, Bill Paxton becoming one with the universe after getting the shot. I don't know. I thought in one sense, I liked seeing Sam Jackson show up in the last episode, but in the other, to me, it was more, I didn't feel much, it could have been a better payoff, I think, emotionally for some of the characters. I mean, the whole Ward thing, I mean, there was a big fight between him and Agent May, but the finale left me a little bit cold. But feel free to disagree with me.
Well, the thing with Sam Jackson, I think it's because of the Captain America film. At some point, you had to catch up the series with the fact that Jackson's character, Fury, he's not dead. So at some point, they had to know this.
Well,
so at least
fine.
you give them a little breathing room of, okay, we're out in the wild now, but at least we have an ally who's watching after us, kind of.
Right. And, it's just nice to have that, it's a shared universe, and you want to have that sort of...
I didn't mind him being there. I just thought it was...
Anticlimactic?
Well, it's like, he happened to show up and save Fitz and Simmons in the water, and then he helps Coulson deal with, with Garrett, and was he the one who had the special gun which killed Garrett a second time?
Well,
yes.
And then
originally
Gave it to Colts. Yeah.
Even that moment to me was...
I loved that.
Did you?
Thought it was like, I love because
was so nonchalant.
Wasn't that the gun in Avengers where he's like, I don't know what this does, and then he gets killed, and then in S.H.I.E.L.D. he's like, I know what this does, and
was it a
Yeah, I thought it was a kind of a callback.
I got
to the
the sense there
Avengers.
was a lot of that kind of referencing other stuff. And
Now, do you think the future of the show is them being outside
Renegades?
of the norm? Yeah.
Well, I think they're rebuilding.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly where they're gonna go.
I'm curious.
They have no sort of government backing, right? I mean, they're still sort of.
But Nick Fury
outlaws.
tells Coulson he's counting on him to rebuild.
Okay.
This.
So
But
maybe
I don't know if it's gonna be official.
you two comic nerds here, in the pantheon of Avengers and Shield, has Shield gone through a process like this already? Multiple times.
I mean, things that have happened with S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, Fury's been knocked out as director. Maria Hill, who's played by Kobe Smulders.
I like.
Me too.
I like her.
And I like seeing her pop up, has been in charge. I think Tony Stark has even been in charge. The mandate for S.H.I.E.L.D. has changed over the years. I mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. started out as sort of an answer to James Bond in the 60s. You know, Nick Fury was sort of recast from this, you know, World War II crotchety
Howling
Commandos guy into a sort of a super spy.
Like Hasselhoff.
Exactly, like Hasselhoff.
If you think super spy, the first thing that comes to mind
and
is
the
Hasselhoff.
original comic is very sort of hip 60s, you know, with the helicarrier and the flying cars and everything. It was all an answer to James Bond. But of course, 50 years, you know, it's evolved and changed, and there have been, you know, regime changes and all kinds of things. So actually, I was kind of, when the show first started and there was this kind of focus on, I mean, I was happy Coulson was alive and because I liked him, but the team itself in the beginning left me very cold, and it almost felt kind of cookie cutterish. And you know, I was like, oh, Fitz and Simmons, ha ha ha,
Well,
funny. I liked them, but I hated the names, you know, and everybody felt kind of like a cliche. And what really disappointed me, I suppose, and this is, yes, it's sort of under the Whedon name and the Whedon production company, but it's his brother Jed who's the primary on the show, and so the dialogue doesn't have that snappy patter that you get from Avengers or anything else that Whedon's done.
I liked the finale. I didn't love it. What
I
did
liked
you think
it.
of the finale?
I liked it very much, but just sort of an overall statement, I liked the second half of the season.
Yeah, me too.
I would say I almost loved it, and it was so hard for me to convince I was honestly hanging on to the show in the beginning just because comic nerd, you know, Marvel, whatever. I'm like, oh, this has to pick up, and please pick up, and you know, but I was losing steam, and I said to myself, if this gets canceled, I'm not going to shed a tear. But you know, when it all came together, and then sort of the kind of cap came out, and everything sort of, you know, converged. I was thrilled, and like I said, whenever they do something from the comic, even if it's sort of its own animal, like Deathlock, I didn't see that coming. And I was sort of, you know, wanted to hit I was like, come on, you should have seen that coming. Because I know Deathlock. And I'm like, son of a... But I like how that's gone. I like the character. And I hope, you know, we see more of him. And I loved Paxton. I thought he was, you know, again, cast against type. And I thought he was great. And I thought he really sort of injected the show with something.
I loved him as a hero. As a villain, I guess I'll buy it, but
yeah,
He doesn't do villains usually.
I like the twist.
yeah.
You know, casting him and then, you know, kind of pulling the rug out from under you.
You know who seemed like a waste was Adrian Pasdar.
Well, he's Glenn Talbot.
But I think he's supposed to come back.
I think he's probably going to come back.
I think they were
okay.
just teasing us.
I think it's more of a
okay.
tease, and I don't know. Here's the thing too, Glenn Talbot is very much a character from the Hulk.
I don't even remember.
Oh
that
yeah,
character much.
he was a Hulk hunter from way back.
Wasn't he in the other Hulk movie?
No, oh yes,
His character, not
his
the
character.
actor.
Yes,
Was he a
played.
Tim
protege
Roth?
of General Thunderbolt Ross?
He was, and that's the thing. Like, if they do a Hulk movie, I could see them, you know, taking Pasdar out and putting him in. Just say, okay, here he is, and you know, you can go do your thing. Possibly, I'm not saying that it's a speculation, but that was where he was mainly based, was the Hulk. So yeah, I have high hopes for season 2. Let's put it that way.
What else, Tony? I know there's another big show that you absolutely love. I used to watch. I kind of fell out. Again, I fell off the geek wagon.
Fell off the geek wagon with Once Upon a Time. He's too busy watching zombies get their brains
eating
hatched
brains.
out.
Send more paramedics.
And again, Once Upon a Time, I also thought was the third season better than season 2, which was a little bit hit and miss. I thought season 3 was much more focused in 2 distinct story arcs, which was the Peter Pan storyline and then the Oz storyline.
And not to interrupt you, but I will. I loved the Wicked Witch storyline. Wasn't so happy with the Peter Pan storyline.
You didn't like Peter Pan?
No. But go on.
I liked Peter Pan. And the interesting thing about Peter Pan, and yes, you will hear hammering in the background because we're in Queens and there's construction going on.
Could be a lot worse.
Interestingly, in a show that kind of prided itself on creating redeemable villains in Regina and Rumpelstiltskin, Peter Pan, from the get-go, seemed pretty evil and stuck there, and there was no redemption possibility. And I think some people took issue with the revelation of who Peter Pan actually was, in the sense that he was, should I say it?
Sure.
In the sense that it turned out Peter Pan was actually Rumpelstiltskin's father. Were you still watching at that point, or you had Carlos?
When did you fade out?
I faded out at the beginning of Peter Pan.
At the beginning of Peter Pan. But I like that because it's set, because again, you had Regina and Rumpelstiltskin villains for so long. Now they set out on this
the path.
hero's quest to save Henry, and really Regina sacrifices a life with him in the middle of the season so he can go on and have a happy life with Emma, and Rumpelstiltskin sacrifice his own life for his grandson. So it's like
and explain how the kid ages in a year. You know, like let's jump ahead a year so the kid can get older.
Oh yeah, well he did kind of shoot up.
Yeah.
So he's gone through puberty there. And then for the second half, there was another curse, the Witch from Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West, and she was another one who was a little bit irredeemable.
Yeah.
I found her to be a little bit one note as a villain. I didn't think they fleshed her out as much as, I mean, there was like the possibility for her to turn around, and even at the end of the season, Regina said, I'm going to give you the chance that I had to turn around, and they never really, they didn't pursue that chance because of the way the story progressed.
Right.
But I was really happy with season 3 as a whole, because again, in season 2, I kind of got the feeling that you had Regina and Rumpelstiltskin were the villains, but they had progressed so much morally, and it's like the writers were trying to keep pushing them back towards being villains, but it wasn't really making sense story-wise. So this season, they just kind of went with the more heroic aspects, even though you still wouldn't want to cross them, and Rumpel especially takes his liberties,
Yes.
the evil side of him, but I thought it was believable, and I just thought overall it was a great end to the season.
I agree.
And a great working in of Jennifer Goodwin's real-life pregnancy is making Snow White and Prince Charming pregnant and everything.
I almost feel like with Regina and Rumpel, to me, the analogy I would use with them is Loki. He's a character, who seems irredeemable, but he kind of hems and haws between being a villain and, I mean, I don't know. Did you see the last Thor movie?
I did not know.
No, you didn't. Okay. He's more of a good guy than a bad guy. He's kind of like Rumpel. Mm-hmm. And, he, like you said, he takes his liberties, but, at the end of the day, he seems conflicted, and there's the sense that he's trying, and I feel like since that's the path that they've set Regina and Rumpel on, in order to have some conflict and some drama, you have to bring in the irredeemable villains,
right? Like
the Wicked Witch and Peter Pan. And making Peter Pan, I mean, some of the things they do with the fairy tale myths are sometimes I'm like, wow, that was really cool. What a great idea. And sometimes I'm like, really? So I don't know.
The Peter Pan Rumpel father thing struck me at first as kind of weird, but as it played out, I kind of went with it, and I was okay with it.
I think the thing I liked most about the Peter Pan storyline was Neil. And I liked his character's arc. I liked his journey, even though he wasn't as prevalent a character as Regina or Rumpel. I liked the story when he was brought into the show and his relationship with Emma.
It worked well.
I really did like that, and
I mean that Rumpelstiltskin's whole story really hinged on that relationship.
Yeah.
So
and will reverberate throughout the show. Yeah. I'm sure.
I have to say, I was a little surprised when they killed him off, because they had already kind of killed him off once before, even though he just went to another dimension.
Yep.
But I guess I think they need to pair Emma with Hook.
Yeah,
And I like Hook. I mean, he's a fun character.
He's another one. I like...
Hook is the good guy. Peter Pan is the bad guy.
So, yeah, I like Hook as the good guy, as the sort of charming rogue Han Solo type.
Yeah. I mean, just from the Disney perspective, I was kind of surprised that Peter Pan was as bad as he was, and that they killed him.
Yeah. No, but, I mean, they're taking some of the, you say Disney myths, but they're really not Disney. There are all these other characters. They own, they didn't create these characters, but, they own a lot of them.
I mean, I've never read J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan, so maybe I should read it. Maybe there's more truth in their version than...
Who knows?
And now it's like every season they're kind of focusing on a different land or mythology.
Well, when they brought Oz into it, I
was surprised.
Me too, and I thought,
what's the Disney connection with Oz?
I don't know if there is. Well, do they have the rights to some weird? Disney has the rights to almost everything.
Disney
is it through the Muppets?
No, Disney actually has. I do believe. I think did they put out Oz the Great and Powerful? with James
Might
Franco.
have been.
Oh, you
They did put out.
Wasn't that Return to Oz a long time
They
ago?
did do Return to Oz.
But wasn't that a real bad dark? That's
No,
the one
you know
in
what
the
it
80s?
was? It's funny you mentioned that because I just watched it recently. It is very dark, but it's sort of become a cult film. You know, the backlash to that film was the original movie, The Wizard of Oz. People just were like, what is this? And it's not the greatest film in the world, but it has, I'm going off on a tangent. It's definitely something people should watch. And it has a very big Lucas connection.
Yes.
Walter Murch directed it, and Lucas, and there's actors in it that are from the Lucas troupe. But yeah, that's just, watch it, folks. That's my recommendation. But I think that Disney does. I think that the Oz stories might be in the public domain, that they might just be able to use them. But I mean,
Is that why they got their hands on Frankenstein?
well, that was my next point.
That's got to be in the public
I think that
domain.
is in the public domain, but the way that Once Upon a Time sort of visualized Frankenstein was very much like the Universal movie.
Universal, yeah,
So, and
yeah.
Universal has copyrights. They don't own Frankenstein's
They own
monster.
black and white.
but they own a. So I
guess you could consider it an homage.
yeah, and who knows what, I'd have to look into it. I'm sure it's very easy to
Maybe
find
they
out.
made a deal.
They made deals. But yeah, I really, with few exceptions, I do like what they do with the now they're bringing in
Well,
Frozen.
yeah, I mean, talking about, introducing new world, I mean, the season ended with the appearance of Elsa from Frozen, which is like the most popular Disney movie
about
probably
cashing
ever.
in.
Oh my God, I can't blame them. I
and
just
I
hope it's
don't-
good.
Yeah,
Strike
I'm
while
not
the
sure
iron is
how
hot.
they're
I
going
still have to see that movie.
Because in the movie,
It was all
Frozen,
right. It was pretty good.
it was good. Elsa is not really a villain. She kind of, damages the kingdom unknowingly. She's struggling, and maybe she's the next redeemable villain. But it's almost like where, since Disney owns ABC, are they going to bring in some kind of Star Wars world as that movie gets ready to launch?
bring in the Avengers? I mean, they own everything.
It's like my father watches the show. It's
Sam
like, where are they
Jackson
going to go
shows
now?
It's Nick Fury. All right.
Yeah, I mean, they are this enormous conglomerate that they do seem to own everything. And
I can hear Regina saying the words, "Oh, this one's from a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away."
Well, how funny was it when Emma said she was Princess Leia?
Yes, that was great.
I was dying.
The finale actually was pretty good in that the whole Wicked Witch storyline had wrapped up, and this was just kind of a. Well, I think the title of it was called "There's No Place Like Home," and was getting Emma to appreciate her family and everything.
I
So
like that. I got to admit that I was kind of like. I mean,
was a nice- it was a well-done
liked that.
episode.
Because Emma, what I've always been sort of sad about is Emma's relationship with her parents.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously she's angry or bitter that she missed out on having them as parents,
Mm-hmm.
and there's always been this sort of gulf between them. And I guess for whatever good they thought they were doing,
it was a resentment on her part that
So,
they
so,
weren't.
so to see that kind of wrapped up was great, but it was also great to see Emma screw up Regina's relationship with Robin Hood.
Oh, yeah.
And I said to my wife, I'm like, this chick is gonna mean something. She's gonna screw up the future somehow, and it was made Mary, and I was dying. When the kids scream "mom" and everything. So I'm just hoping that it doesn't take Regina off her path.
Yeah.
If it just sort of continues that sort of antagonism between her and Emma, I'm fine with that.
I guess they want to keep the tension alive, but
which is okay.
Yeah. So a strong season for Once Upon a Time and Person of Interest for me.
Well, like Person of Interest, because I'm only one season behind, this is one that I'm hoping maybe over the summer do some binge watching and catch up.
Well, I just want to one last point, because I think it just bears mentioning. Disney did try to milk the cow with Once Upon a Time in Wonderland.
Yeah.
I lasted 2 episodes on that, and
I think I watched 4. And apparently it was run, like the whole season did run.
Yeah.
But it got canceled, and it was like barely noticeable. I thought maybe the next season of Once Upon a Time was going to pick up with Wonderland, but I guess
they are rolling in one of the characters from Wonderland.
Oh, the Knave or something?
The Knave, yeah.
Okay.
So he'll be in next season of Once Upon a Time.
Well, this brings us to the end of part 1 of our summer 2014 TV season wrap-up. I'd like to thank Tony and Steve for joining me today. And join us again next week when we will do part 2, which will include some of our other favorite shows like Arrow, Grimm, and The Blacklist. So until then, we'll see you guys here next time at Geek Fest Rants. Bye-bye, everybody.
profiler is now the FBI's top suspect. But they have the wrong man.
Hello, Will.
Hello, Dr. Lecter.
You are obsessed with Will Graham.
What you did to me is in my head, and I will find it.
You're not a suspect. You're the new Will Graham.
Is Will Graham an intelligent psychopath?
He tells everyone that you are a monster. Well, in that case, you are dining with a psychopathic murderer. I imagine it's easier to believe I'm responsible for those murders than it is to accept that you are. You have to investigate me. It's in my best interest.
Yes, it is.
The conclusion that I've drawn is that you are dangerous.
You may not believe me now. You will. Stay away from Hannibal Lecter.
I believe you.
I almost feel guilty about eating it. I never feel guilty eating anything.
Stop! That's not funny. Are you recording now? If you're gonna insult someone, turn the microphone off.